Right, that's where I ripped the compressor out. You'll see I cut the pipes. Somewhere in there's a real skinny one. That's the one that ideally you cut them all. They might leak oil. Alright. Right, here's a Inkbird temperature controller. There's a few things you need to do with that, and I'll show you the setup in a minute. You should calibrate it. I used a homebrew thermometer. What you need to do is have both the sensors together. Okay, focus on that. Wherever you have it, like if you put it inside where you're heating, you need the sensors close to each other, otherwise there's no accuracy in it. And I'll show you how to change the temperature setting inside the Inkbird. If not, you can use a pot of boiling water, get it up to boiling. It's 100 degrees C exactly. And yeah, as well, you notice the differential there, and then you get yourself a pot of just water and fill it with ice. Bring it down near enough to zero, and notice the differential there. And split the difference, so if one is +1 and the other is -1, then you don't need to do anything, it's spot on. This one from memory, I've got a couple of these, was about 1 degree out. When I fire it up we'll soon see. But if you don't, you run the risk, because I had the other one, I think my first one was 3 degrees out, and you don't want that, it's a bit too much. Right, I've got this powered up. The lower screen is the set value, and it's currently set at 43 degrees. The upper screen is the actual temperature that it's sensing, it's 16.2. This one doesn't bugger things up. Anyway, to change the settings, press and hold the set button for about 10 seconds. Right, that's the heat setting. If I go down, you see it changing. We'll go up. Then just press set. Now that's the differential. That's set on the minimum. I think it comes set on about 1. That's what you want, is the minimum, which is 0.3 of a degree C. We'll go to the next one. That's the cooling differential. Just leave that as it is, unless you're cooling. That's a high alarm, 120 degrees C. I don't use that. It's if you've got if you want to use it, you can. Oh, it's gone back. It's gone back to the original numbers because I never got to the end of it. You've got to press and hold the cooling differential. High alarm, low alarm, -40. Not sure what that is, PE. There's the calibration. You see I've got it -1, it was 1 degree out. Degrees C or degrees F, it's all pretty self-explanatory. So, I don't know what that PE is. Anyway, that's that. We'll get into the flue. The other thing is, whichever country you're in, you've got to make sure you get the right plugs. This is AU plug for Australia and New Zealand. If you're in the US, you need a US plug. You need to make sure of that. I'll put a link in for New Zealand on Trade Me. They've got there. I see them on eBay and Amazon. And there's various sorts. This is a basic one. There's a programmable one. There's one with Wi-Fi. There's one with dual temps. You only need the basic one, unless you want to control it with your phone. Alright, we'll get on to the rest of it. Right, this temperature controller was one that I built for, I was going to build a still, but I never got around to it. You don't need one of these. I'm an electrical engineer, I can build complicated things like this. I used one of these in my first one that I built. They're very good. The problem is, by the time you spend $30 on one of those, then you buy a box to put it in, and then all the rest of the bits, glands and cables and stuff, it's more expensive than the Inkbird. Plus it's a bit of work, and if you're not electrically minded, a bit of a problem for you. And you can see I just write the temperatures down when I bang them in. If I remember, I'll put a link to these bins in. These have got sealable lids. You don't need sealable lids. I'll turn this off and I'll show you what I got in here. This is just basically made from this is warehouse garden stakes. Those heating elements down there, it was an old George Foreman grill that was a waste of money, and I connected it up in series. That's knocked it down to about 300 watts. You don't want any more than 300 watts, that's for sure. The terminal block, if you're capable of wiring one of these, you need a ceramic terminal block, because otherwise the plastic ones will just melt and you have a fault. Now, I put a couple of fans in, one failed. When you use fans, they've got to be rated at 70C, otherwise they'll go crook. Also put it inside a aluminium cooking tray, and I've lifted it up off the deck a bit, and that's to stop the bottom of it getting hot. You can see there's a lot of corrosion in here because I did an experiment with drying leaves out. It was a failure. All these that's the sensor for the PID and that other temperature controller. I put these extra overloads in because I'd be leaving this thing for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. I didn't want a fire. So I got one down there, I don't know what they're set at. You want about 60 degrees C. So I drilled a hole through it, I brought it out, I protected it with a bit of foam, and the same for the electrics. One for the fan, and I can't remember quite how I did that. I see there's 2 in there. Not sure. I've only got one plug for it. Anyway, that's the basis of. You can get away with a crock pot. The problem is they take up a lot of room. Like, you come up here, you still got to keep it off the bottom, and you'll need an aluminium oven tray to spread the heat. Otherwise, what happens is the bottom of your bin will dry out and go hard, and the rest of it won't get much heat. So that's why this one's in here. Now, as far as the temperatures go, if your leaves are green, 40 degrees C. If they're not, if they've dried and colour cured and ready to go, just use the garden sprayer, wet them down a bit, and at 48 degrees you can start them off at that. Now, the total process is a minimum of 26 days, ideally a month. So you run about a week and a half at 48, it's not critical, and then you crank it up to 50, and then the last few days 52.8. Now that 52.8, I found that number years ago, a commercial producer of tobacco, that was his curing temperature. There's not much on the internet about flue curing, and any questions, just pop them to me. So that's about the guts. Freezer's good, the bigger the better. You can use Systemer bins. You don't need clear plastic bins, don't use black ones. They've got all sorts of nasty recycled crap in there. So that's about it. We'll see how we go. Right, what we got in here is 2 bins of finished tobacco. Now they were both flue cured together, but there's a difference. This one was stuff that were going mouldy and I panicked. And you'll see it's gone black. I hope it comes out. And the stems are black. It's because they were too wet. I left them in overnight at 48 degrees C. Once you get over 40 degrees C, the mould won't grow. It dies straight away. But anyway, I left them in too long. You'll see these are different. The stems are brown, colour's brown, there's no black at all. So that's what you're striving for, this one.